Well, hello there, challengees, and welcome to the Always Be Closing Show. No, that's a joke. It'll make sense later. The Always Better Challenge Show. I'm your host, Joe Bedford. This is the show that helps you take steps today for a better and happier tomorrow. And as always, we start off with a quote, which is also going to serve to introduce today's topic. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that this quote changed my life. The quote is this: "No one likes to be sold, but everyone loves to buy." And the author is unknown. So today we are going to talk about how to be good at sales, at selling. And don't tune out, don't tune out, don't tune out. I hear you. You're saying, oh, but my job isn't sales. My career isn't sales. Well, definitely one of the points that I want to make, and one of the ideas that I hope you'll be convinced of after you listen to me today, is that everyone, and I mean everyone, needs to be good at sales, because in one way or another, everyone is doing sales pretty much probably every single day of our lives. But before we get into that, I want to talk to you a little bit about my background, and tell you, a little bit about my story and why I'm so passionate about this topic. Well, for one thing, in my previous life, one of my jobs that I was in for several years was in the role of what we can call a sales trainer. I think that's fair to characterize what I did in that way. And as I'm sure I don't have to tell anybody, one of the things about sales in our society is that it has a very bad reputation. When I say the word sales, what is the very first phrase or type of person or job that comes to your mind? Okay, how many of you said used car salesman? That's the image that we have. That's the reputation that this job has in our society. We think of somebody that's pushy, that's going to push us into doing something that we don't want to do. We think about, if you saw the movie that I referenced in the introduction today, Glenn Ross, always be closing. Coffee is for closers. That's the reputation that sales so often has in our society. But as I said, everyone is in sales. We're all in sales. Parents. As parents, are you not constantly trying to sell your children on certain ideas? How about dates? How about, if you're single, how about getting a date? Are you not trying to sell another person on you and why you'd be a good person to be with in a relationship? How about at work? If you are trying to present ideas to your boss that you would like your boss to get on board with and take action on, is that not a form of sales? How about a job interview, for that matter? How many of us have been on job interviews? Is that not a form of sales? Basically, trying to get a promotion at work. Anytime you are trying to present and promote your own ideas to another person or people, you are selling. Negotiating with the cable company to get them to lower your bill, or negotiating with the bank to get them to take the overdraft charge off of your account. A million different examples of sales that we do in everyday life that I could share with you. How about this? How many of us are, socially aware and want to make social changes in the lives? I promised from the very beginning that I would not bring up politics on this show, and I'm not going to change that now. But if you do have certain political ideas that you want to put forward, is that not a form of sales? I'm going to throw in a little bonus quote today. I kind of love to do that. Robert Louis Stevenson said, "Everyone lives by selling something." So I hope that I've convinced you of the idea that, yeah, maybe even if sales is not my job or my career, maybe it is a skill that it would serve me to be better at. Another like obvious example that I have to throw in here for fun is to remind you that I'm selling to you right now. I sell to you on every single one of these shows that I do I not? Am I not trying to present ideas to you and get you to take action on those ideas and do things and challenge you to make your life better? Am I not selling that to you? Yet another form of sales. So on today's show, and another point I want to make before I continue is that if I haven't convinced you that we use sales every day in life, what if I told you that being better at sales and makes you better at connecting with other people? Because that really is what good sales is. That's what you're doing. You're connecting with another person. And so it helps that having a sales skill helps you in I'm babbling here, I'm mumbling, I'm sorry. It makes you better at connecting with other people in your life. So we're going to talk about regular sales, quote unquote, for today's episode. I don't know, hopefully some sales professionals are watching and hopefully get some help out of what I'm saying. But the rest of you, just translate it into the examples that I've mentioned above as far as, the everyday kind of sales that all of us do, regardless of our job. So I want to back up again even further from my sales training days and tell you about my very first sales job and the attitudes that I had going into it, and then what happened. So I was a very young adult in my early 20s. I was working in the hotel business. And, like a lot of young people, I was, constantly, money was tight, T-I-G-H-T, tight. So I got an opportunity, a local, relatively local photography studio business, Olin Mills. Some of you are probably familiar with that. They're based in Chattanooga. They did a thing, I don't know if they still do this or not, but they would go around to different towns nationwide. I believe they did this. And they would actually rent a hotel room, which is how I got, the opportunity, because they rented a room at the hotel where I worked. And they would rent that long-term for a few weeks, and they would hire folks to cold call out of the telephone book. I'm giving away my age here, but we were literally calling folks out of the telephone book and trying to get them to basically come get their picture taken and hopefully sell them some pictures. So money was tight for me, so I decided, that I was going to do this. And it was, and I can't remember all the details now. I can't remember if there was a base pay. I kind of don't think there was. I kind of think it was all based on, actual performance, what you actually were able to do. So I took this job, cold calling people and trying to sell them, trying to get them to come in and get their pictures taken. And this was just such a great learning experience for me in so many ways. Well, first of all, I want to tell you the attitude that I brought into this. And it's the exact same attitude that so many people have about selling. I was like, I'm not going to be good at this. I'm not a pushy person. I don't like to be pushy. I don't want to be pushy. And, I was really concerned that I wasn't going to be good at it. So I guess I just decided, I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to call these folks and I'm just going to talk to them and I'm not going to be pushy. I'm not. And I'm just going to, present my product. And the thing about it, it was a good product too, because we weren't, and again, it's been a while, so I don't remember all the details, but really what we were trying to get them just to come in and get their portrait made. And there was a free, as I recall, they got like a free 8x10. And they didn't have to buy anything. But of course, if they came in and got their portraits done, then there was upselling that, tried to get them to get more than the free 8x10. Another part of the job that we did that was interesting is we also tried to get referrals. So we tried to get them to refer other folks that we could call and that we could say, hey, your friend so-and-so told us that we should call and thought this would be something you were interested in. So I just approached it that way. I was like, I'm just going to call these people and I'm offering this free thing. So, maybe that'll make it easier. And I just approached it that way. And I didn't think that I would be good at it at all. My first week doing this new job, my first job in sales, I discovered, much to my own shock and surprise, that I was pretty good at sales. Not only was I pretty good at sales, I guess I was really good. Olin Mills, the company, they had a little newsletter that they sent out, and they listed in there the top, I can't remember how many, top 20 salespeople in the country, doing what I was doing at different, hotels or whatever. I guess that's how they did a lot of their stuff back then. And I was one of them. I was one of the tops in the country at this. And like I say, I was blown away because I was like, wow, I never thought I'd be good at sales because I'm not pushy. But that was one of the lessons that I learned, was that good sales is not about being pushy. I was really just trying to be nice and helpful to these people. I was presenting them this free option for them, and trying to explain it in a way that I thought would serve them and help them. And then, if they liked the pictures and wanted to buy more, they could, and that's great. Didn't have to. And the same thing with referrals. I was good at getting referrals because I'd say, hey, you took advantage of this offer, and so you'd like it. So who else do you know that would like it? Who do and I learned real quickly, to sort of help them think of people, not just saying, who do you know? Because that's broad, but being a little more specific. Well, who at church would be interested in this? Who at work would be interested in this? Who at school would be interested in this? Who in your family would be interested in this? And, so they would say, oh, well, yeah, so-and-so would be, and such would be. And so I was very good at getting referrals, which also had a lot to do with why I was good at sales. Because as you can imagine, I did a lot better calling Frank and saying, your buddy Bob told me I should call you. That was a lot better than, of course, we didn't say, hey, I just got your name out of the phone book. But, when you didn't have another person that they knew that you could mention, it's a cold call. And those didn't result in as good a results as the referrals did. So that was another reason that I did really well. And I just try to be helpful to people and nice and not pushy. So that's my story. Oh, and another thing, I said I tried to be helpful. In sales, you want it to be win-win. You don't want it to be you and the customer like on different sides of the table. It's like you both. It's like I said, everyone loves to buy. So if you're helping them buy something that they will enjoy, then you're on the same side. And that makes it so much better and makes you so much better at it. And I also made it a game. And, that's great advice for so many things in life. I made it a game. So I wasn't all, gung-ho about it. It was playful. And I was trying to, in a very nice, non-threatening way, trying to get these people to sign up and trying to get them to give me the referrals. So it was a game, and I wanted to, score points, or whatever you want to call it. So that made it fun. That helped me in it. I think it's important for us to remember that in business, and again, this is, I guess, a quote I've heard, and I don't know the author, but in business, nothing happens until someone sells something. So whatever your job is, and whether that is your job or not, to sell, but your job wouldn't exist. I guess maybe there's some examples or exceptions out there. Government employee, maybe, I don't know. But for most of us who work for a for-profit company, nothing, regardless of whether that's your job or not, nothing happens in your business until somebody sells something. The customers are the ones that pay your salary. And the salespeople are the ones that get the customers to do that or help the customers to do that. So I think that's important to keep in mind. So as I learned in my early sales experience, if somebody tells me, I'm not going to be any good at sales because I don't like being pushy, what I really like to say back to that is, if you feel pushy, then you're doing it wrong. That is not the way to be good at sales. Pushy is the refuge of the poor salesperson, in my opinion. There is another part to sales, which is that you want to find the right customers. Not everybody is going to be a customer for every product. So you want to do whatever you can to present your product to people who want it or can benefit from it and can't afford to buy it, to be frank. So, those are the people that you can do that win-win type of thing with them. If they're someone that's going to benefit from what it is that you're selling, then that's who you want to be talking to. Don't waste your time trying to be pushy and pushing somebody into it when it's not going to benefit them, or if they honestly can't afford it. That accomplishes nothing. So remember the quote. You're helping them find what they want to buy. You're not selling them something they don't want. You're providing a service. You're helping them, if you look at it that way. So it's not about being pushy. It's about helping someone. And you are providing a service if you're helping someone find something that they will benefit from. So how do you find out what your customer wants? So in other words, if you're helping them, fulfill a need, well, you have to know what that need is. How do you find that out? And then how do you find out how your product can fill that need? Well, you have to ask. You have to ask questions. Open-ended questions. You want to avoid asking yes or no questions as much as you can. Open-ended questions. The best definition I've ever heard of open-ended questions is they usually start with how, words like how, or even, this is not so much a question, but tell me about X. Questions like that elicit more than a yes or no answer, gets the customer talking. And that's how you uncover their needs. A lot of people, especially like newbies in sales or people that are not that good at sales, they think that as the salesperson, they should be the one talking most of the time because they've got to present their product. No, you should be asking questions and then listening. You should be listening more than you're talking. That's the way you're going to uncover the needs that exist. Then and only then are you able to, help fill those needs. So your customer should be doing more of the talking, not you. Other point I like to make about closed-ended questions, the yes or no questions, if you're asking those types of questions, generally that is a sign that you are assuming. You think you know what the customer wants. And so you're wasting time saying, well, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Save time. Just ask them, the open-ended questions. That's going to get them to tell you rather than you having to guess and waste a lot of time and be wrong. So the open-ended questions are your friend. Then you also want to clarify, and this is something I'm sure folks have heard not just in sales, but just in good communication. Ask clarifying questions. Be careful how you do it. I've heard suggestions that you just parrot back exactly what they said. So what you said is, and then you say the exact same thing back. You want to be real careful doing it that way. That seems unnatural to me almost. You want to paraphrase it. And here's another thing. You want to put it on you, not on them. What I mean by that is you want to say, so I want to make sure that I understand. What you meant is da-da-da-da-da. You don't want to say it something like, well, if I understand you correctly, what you said is, that makes it almost sound like you don't believe that they know how to say what they're trying to say. You know what I mean? So you want to put it on you. Help me understand or make sure that I understand what you're saying. Take that burden on yourself rather than trying to point the finger at them, making them feel like there's something wrong with the way they're communicating. Here's another point that I want to make, and this goes back to what I said about salespeople who think that they should be doing most of the talking. Your customer does not care about your product's features. And that's what so many, not that good salespeople do. Well, I've got the XP100 and the XP100 has 400 gigabytes of RAM and 256 whatever. The customer does not care. They do not care what your product does exactly. They don't care about the specifications and the features. They want to know what it is going to do for them. So that's what you emphasize. So if you're talking about the computer, you don't tell them it's got 8 zillion gigs of this and 48 million of that. You say, when you are doing whatever you're doing on the computer, you're editing your videos, it's going to be so much quicker than, computer Y. You don't have to tell them about the 512 gigabyte processor or whatever. They don't care. Tell them what it'll do for them and make it emotional for them the best you can. So you can say, you know how frustrating it is when you're working on your video and it takes 20 seconds for this to load and that to load. This computer is, you're not going to have that. It's going to be so much more enjoyable when you're working on your videos. That makes it, emotional. They're like, oh, that'll make me happy. That's what you want to do. Now, that is not to say, however, that you had better not know what your product does. You had better know every specification and technical whatever. You need to know your product cold. You need to know it down cold, because you do need to be prepared for the customer who may ask information that they feel like they need to make a decision. And you, by gosh, better know it. So know your product cold. That bugs me, even like if I'm in a restaurant and I ask the server a question about something that's on the menu and they don't know. I try to be, kind and think, maybe they're new on the job or whatever. Or ask them what the special is and they don't know. I'm like, that should be the first question you ask when you come in, because that's something that people are going to want to know. You need to know that. Know your stuff cold. Remember that customers are going to buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So what does this mean? Well, it means, what does this mean you should do? Well, a few things. First of all, don't BS people. Don't try to BS people. Don't try to be, be a person of integrity. There's lots of reasons why you should do that, but in sales, you might think that, oh, well, I'll do better if I can. No, you're going to be better being straight up and honest with people, because people are so good at sniffing out BS. They sense it. They feel it. It's like a gut feeling. Be straight with people. You're trying to partner with them. Like I said, it's you and them trying to work together and get to a win-win solution for both of us, where, I provide you something that you're going to benefit from, and I get the sale. So we both win. It's a partnership. Integrity. You've got to have that. You got to have that in life anyway. You got to have that to be happy. But I'm getting off on a whole other tangent there. I won't do that now. And customers have more information than ever with the internet, and they have more information. So you try to slide on over on them, it's probably not going to work out too well for you. Another thing is where I talked about the importance of referrals. If the customer doesn't trust you, are they going to refer you to their friends? No, of course they're not. Of course they're not. So it's important. And as I said, referrals are so much more valuable. I would go so far as to say that a referral is almost a slam dunk. I mean, I've definitely seen that in different sales that I've done in my life, where when I got a referral, it wasn't a guaranteed sale, but it was the closest thing you could get. So referrals are golden in sales. They are your life's blood. And so you want to be the person who deserves those referrals and earns those referrals, and yes, asks for those referrals. Be willing to help your prospective customer even if you do not benefit. Yes. That is what good sale, or that's a component of good sales. It's not about being pushy. It's not about being a jerk. Help them even if you don't benefit. Know whose side you are on. You're on their side. Be a partner and an asset. So what that means, an example of this going back to my hotel days, not that that was explicitly a sales job, but it certainly had that component. But if my hotel was booked up, I would try to find them a room at a competing hotel. I didn't get, it wasn't my job. I could have told them to hit the bricks, but just to be helpful, I tried to do that. And so that's the kind of thing you want to do with prospective customers. Be helpful even if you don't benefit. Don't always be looking at it, what's in it for me. Another very helpful technique that you can use, and this makes such perfect sense if you think about it, is provide social proof whenever possible. So what this means is, the most obvious example is, and I'm blanking on what we call it when you've got these on your website or whatever, but testimonials from past customers. Those are also gold. When you can get you know, words from a past customer talking about how much they've enjoyed using your product or how much they enjoyed working with you, how great the process was, because obviously your prospect, they're saying, oh, well, okay, then that's the kind of experience that I can expect to have as well. If someone else has gone through this and had a good experience, then so will I. And of course, the nice thing about a testimonial is it's not you saying it, it's someone else saying it. It's someone who was in the customer's shoes saying it. So that is a very potent technique, to help a customer see, yeah, this is going to be a good thing for me, which, that's what you want it to be. But you sometimes have to show them that that's how it's going to be, that it's going to be great. Another sort of rookie mistake that I've seen sometimes. So when your customer is sold, so you're talking to them, and let's say you've told them the first thing about your product, the first benefit, the first thing that it's going to do for them, and they're like, "Oh, well, that sounds great then." Here's what you do: you stop talking. If they're good, if that's the information that they need and they're ready to move forward, let's move forward. Let's get them to sign the contract or do whatever it is that we're doing to close that sale. They're sold. You don't need to keep talking just to hear yourself talk. You're there to help them make a buying decision. They've made it. They've made it. Shut your mouth. Because get your pen out. And hopefully this will go without saying where I've talked about it's not about being pushy. If the customer says no, that's fine. That's okay. That's okay. If what you're selling is not going to benefit the customer and they've decided that, then that's fine. Now, the only other point I'll make, and anybody who's done sales for any amount of time knows this, is that there's a difference between a customer saying no and a customer raising an objection. An objection is not necessarily no. It's saying, oh, well, no, I don't know about this because of whatever the reason is. And then hopefully you're going to be able to address the objection that they have. And we can't go into that. I could do a whole episode, I suppose, on overcoming objections. Maybe I will at some point in the future. But yeah, so if it's something, if it's a concern that you can answer, then answer the objection, and then you can proceed with the sales presentation, or ask if you're at the point to where you're ready to ask them, does that satisfactorily answer your objection? Are you ready to move forward? Then hopefully you can move forward. The only other point I'll make about objections before I move on is that you have to uncover the real objection, and sometimes that does take a little digging, a little bit of those open-ended questions, because like the quick objection, or like the probably most obvious objection is, oh, I can't afford it. Well, that's probably not the real objection. They wouldn't be talking to you if they couldn't. I mean, really, what they're saying is, well, I'm unconvinced that it's worth the amount of money that you're saying it's going to cost. So you have to sometimes dig a little more to uncover what the real objection is. Another technique that you can use sometimes is the feel, felt, found. Again, the pro salespeople out here have probably heard about this. You do want. I almost hesitated whether I wanted to include this one because it's been in books, and I wonder if it's one of those things that folks have been exposed to, so it doesn't sound genuine. But it is a helpful technique. So I'm going to mention it just. At least if this gives you background information or ideas on how to, handle objections. And this goes back to the social proof a little bit. And it's feel, felt, found. Well, this is me talking to my customer who's raised an objection. And I say, well, I understand how you feel. So first of all, I want to acknowledge that what they're saying is valid, and, it's perfectly fine for them to feel that way. Hey, I understand how you feel. A lot of folks that I talk to, or a lot of folks who went on to become customers of mine, initially felt that way too. So there's the felt. But what they found was X. So in other words, yeah, I understand how you feel because I've had other folks that felt that way too. But in the end, they found that that wasn't a problem for whatever reason. So I'm just throwing that one out there as a technique. Like I say, be careful of that one. You don't want to be salesy. You want to be real. You want to be genuine. You want to be straight with people. But sometimes it's helping them overcome their own roadblocks. They want to buy, but they're scared or whatever. And so you're working with them to help them overcome that. Another technique that I'm going to throw out there, again, these last two are ones that I'm wondering, I was like, oh, should I put this in? It's the idea of, well, would you like that in blue or in red? Because to me, that sounds kind of pushy, right? Well, do you want that in blue or red? So it's okay for getting maybe information, or maybe if you're trying to find out, hey, are you ready to buy? Are you ready to decide blue or red? Just don't be pushy about it. That's my only concern with that one. So that's it. We're at the 30-minute mark, so it's time to wrap things up. I always do my best to provide a resource to you. The one that jumped to my mind is Gitomer.com. That's Gitomer.com. I will link that up in the show notes below in the description. It's Jeffrey Gitomer's website. One book of his that I read back in the day was called The Little Red Book of Selling. That one stands out in my mind as being one that I enjoyed and got some value from. So that's the resource for today. So I hope very much that you've enjoyed the show. The people who do sales for a living who may be watching, I hope you've gotten some benefit out of this. And let me know what if you are a pro and you're watching this, let me know what you think. I wondered if I should do some other episodes like this. I don't know if my general audience would be interested in that or not. I might even split that off into its own separate show. So that who knows. So let me know what you think. Those of you who don't do sales for a living, let me know what you think as well. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't already. You can do that down below, or look for my thumbs up that pops up here somewhere. Sign up for our free daily motivational emails. Those come out every weekday. There is no charge, and you can do that at the website, abetterchallenge.com. That's abetterchallenge.com. Until next time, thank you so much for watching the Always Better Challenge Show. I'm your host, Joe Bedford. Until next time, go out there and make it happen. Bye now.